Three, two, one. While I'm sipping some water before this exciting session, which we are going to have today. This is how technology companies can win the India opportunity. I think this is a good day today, right? Because there are a lot of other things also happening when we are talking about on the India front. I'm not going to talk
Yes.
about that because that's going to be a trending topic on Twitter and all the digital channels. But yeah, thank you all for joining in today. I'm Shikha. I'm head of marketing at Jio Platforms, and together I have amazing, you can say, thought leaders with me from Indian ecosystem, with whom we are going to have an amazing discussion today. I'm going to start off my discussion with Ashish Katkar, who is from Veronite, followed with a discussion with Prashant. And then we will have a very deep insights being shared by Radha and Sanjeev. Just before I venture into the session, I just want to make a point that this session is brought to you by Jio in collaboration with Midasta today. Okay, so yes, Ayushi, you can do your magic, and Ashish and I are gonna delve straight into the discussion. So yes, Ashish, before I jump into my hot topics for today, can you quickly give a background about your India story? And then, yeah, we will go on to a kind of a rapid fire round today.
Sure, absolutely, Shikha. Thanks for having me here. I think, first of all, I would like to mention that we are definitely not going to be the spotlight for today. I think there are two major things happening. One is, of course, the Chandrayaan 3, and then Praga fighting out in his second match with Carlsen in FIDE World Championship. I think I'm sure these are the topics that India must be looking forward to. But having said that, quickly about our India story, I think surprisingly, Shikha, as a company, we started in 2011, but it was only around, say, maybe. And I was always a firm believer, coming from IT world, that you have to go and sell invest. India is not a market that you should be looking at. Very difficult market. You don't make money. And it was only in 2015 that kind of changed my opinion about this entire myth, the thought process, or whatever I can say. It was only when we kind of really got deeper into Indian market, signed up our first client. We are on the banking and financial services side, mainly on cards and payments, digital payments. And that's when we signed our first client, and we closely started working with the ecosystem, the fraternity. Till that point of time, we probably had a 10,000 feet view about the market, but when you really get into it, you really understand the realm of possibilities, what's happening at ground level, the gaps that exist, what you can do to fulfill those gaps, and the tremendous opportunity that is available. I think since then till today, I mean, if you look at it, in 2015, we signed our first customer on the digital payment side, and today, in 2023, it's almost been 8 years. So if you look at the way we have grown in 8 years, today we work with several of the top 10 car issuers in the country. We work with some of about four unicorn fintechs, helping them on the digital payment side. But I have realized personally, it's a personal learning as well as an organization, that India is land of opportunities, and it's a myth that you cannot do good business in India. You can make money, you can make good margins. It's not necessary that you have to look west to build your business. Our entire business that we built has been around India and Southeast Asian stories. So I think that's how I would put it. I hope I've kind of answered your question.
Yeah, sure, Ashish. There's a long list. Don't worry. So we just got started. So yeah, Ashish, I think let's hit the you can say the core of the digital payments, right? Can you give us your insight about that? And then how do you see this particular industry? And what is the kind of growth opportunities are available in this particular industry? Very specific to the Indian ecosystem, Ashish.
Absolutely. I think before I touch upon, say, the digital payment side of things, I think one thing today we know that India is the fifth largest economy in the world. We are poised to become the fastest growing major economy in the world, expecting to grow at, say, 7% year on year from 2024 until 2031. and in next 5 to 7 years we should be the third largest economy in the world. I think there are various reasons behind this growth. I don't need to go and explain those, but what it fundamentally means is the enormous set of opportunities that are going to exist for everyone who's going to do business in India. Now, because I represent the digital payments industry, hence my focus and expertise will be around this industry. The Indian digital payment space has seen extraordinary growth in the last few years. With the volume of transactions have grown at a CAGR of 23%. If you ask me, India has become a model for digital payments adoption for countries across the globe. I'm sure Shikha, you have seen this recent. A couple of days ago, there was a video floating around on the social media where a German ambassador was trying his hand at UPI, trying to pay his bill. So some of the more developed countries also, and they don't have this digital payment infrastructure instruments that are available to us in India, which has become part of our daily life. So, I mean, in general, if you say digital payments, I mean, if you look at last year's figures as well, digital payments in India have grown at a massive rate. Year on year, the volume growth has been about 56% in last fiscal year. And it's said that it will easily grow about 4 times over next 3-4 years, say until fiscal year, say 26-27, it will easily grow by another 4 times. And I mean, obviously, the core of our digital payments has been UPI. It's believed that over the next 5 years, UPI will contribute about 90% of the total transactional volume in retail digital payment space. And its adoption will much go beyond that. It will really get deeper into tier 3, tier 4 cities. Obviously, there are other payment instruments as well, which are going to grow at a healthy rate, whether it is, say, credit cards, whether it is NETC because of the fast tag, and the PBPS, the Bharat Bill Payment System. These are some of the instruments which are also expected to grow at a healthy rate. I think the key thing here is consumers are increasingly adopting digital payments. I think with new innovations, new use cases, India is kind of on the verge of another booming increased digital payment transaction. I think we need to acknowledge the role of government of India and RBI focus around digital payments ecosystem, which is kind of fueling this growth. I think UPI generally continues to maintain its incredible growth story. I mean, if you look at it, year on year growth for transaction volume has been 80% last year. New features have come in, UPI 123, UPI Lite. Then among cards, I think credit cards have grown tremendously in transaction volume, about 41% growth. Debit card volume has gone down. Obviously, see, UPI has gone up. That has contributed to debit card related growth volume kind of stagnating at a certain value, or the growth is really stunted. But in coming years, I think credit card transactions expected to grow in coming years with linkage to UPI, and there are going to be new entrants in this credit card issuance space as well. We ourselves know of at least 4 banks entering this space in this current calendar year itself. And in generally, I think face-to-face infrastructure, whether it is in form of POS, QR codes, is not only growing in metro cities, but it's really making its impact in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. So there is a year-on-year growth on POS, QR codes as well that we see. And I think very interesting innovations that have happened, whether tap to pay or the Soundbox, the Paytm Soundbox. They have also promoted the use of digital payments just by enhancing the user experience while making payments. So I think overall, if you look at different payment instruments that are being used in digital payment space, and if you look at the kind of statistics that have come in last fiscal year, everywhere it's massive growth that we are seeing across payment instruments, so which is good news.
Yep, I think you answered that, because my next query to you was that what are the top digital payment providers, and then of course what is the kind of outlook you are seeing in that, and then you also touched upon that what is the role of different parties in terms of the growth of these digital solutions. So now moving further into our discussion, Ashish, that being a technology solution provider, how do you see, you can say, from this particular side of the table, when we are looking at the digital payment industry as such, How do you think the match is going to happen, and then how this entire ecosystem thrives in this particular space?
Right. Shika, I missed you in between. Can you just repeat the question, please? I missed you in between. Probably something to do with my internet connection. So sorry for that. Can you just repeat?
No worries, Ashish. What I was mentioning is that the role of technology service provider, matching it up with the payment industry or the entire payment instruments which we were just talking about. How do you see this match between that? This entire ecosystem. How does it work?
Absolutely. See, this digital payments growth is going to fuel different kinds of technology related innovations. Now there are different kinds of stakeholders that could come up because of this digital payments growth. I think one of the industry that we need to really look at is fintech or techfin, whichever we look at it. Obviously, because of the kind of innovations that are happening, there is policy regulations from RBI, due to which I think there is going to be tremendous opportunity for fintechs. There are a lot of interesting use cases coming up on cross-border payments side, in generally on the bill payments side, due to which I believe a lot of new fintechs will come up. There could be interesting collaborations between banks, NBFCs, and fintechs addressing some of those use cases. So I see this one particular trend on the technology side. One is the growth of new fintechs. Already that is happening. There are interesting fintechs that are coming up in our space addressing specific use cases as well. So that's one impact I see because of this digital payments. Second, I see on the payments infrastructure side of things, I believe this is one area which has remained untapped. I believe a lot of financial institutions today use legacy infrastructure. They are relying on legacy infrastructure, which truly doesn't allow them to address some of these use cases. And hence, I see second trend would be around payment infrastructure companies, technology companies that will grow, which will only focus on providing a technology infrastructure which can be used by financial institutions to enable some of these use cases. So that's another trend which, as a technology provider, one should be interested in. I'm just mentioning the categories, then companies can pick and choose where they want to fit themselves. So that's another impact that I see based on this growth story, the opportunities that are getting created. First, on the fintech side, second, payment infrastructure side. Third would be pure play technology services companies which will go and fill up the gaps that remain from a technology and a domain standpoint. What happens is a lot of technology companies that are evolving might not necessarily have strong domain competency, due to which there would be an opportunity white space that will be created for services companies who bring in a very niche focus around a particular domain and serve that gap. So that's third area where I see technology companies can actually fit themselves into that space, cover the gaps that are created. So these are 2-3 options that I clearly see which will emerge because of this growth on the technology side, where companies should try to tap into this opportunity.
Now, here if we were talking about the growth and the opportunity which this particular industry provides, Ashish, and I'm sure there will be a lot of challenges as well. So, having said that, I would like to hear from you as a closing note of our talk that what is that one challenge which irks you but also excites you to be a part of this industry for the next.
I mean, if you frankly ask me, I mean, I don't see too many challenges here. I'm actually excited for next 5 to 7 years. I see these challenges as opportunities. I don't think there is a challenge. We've got a fantabulous regulator. We've got great support from government. We have some bright minds, risk-taking mindset. So if you ask me, Shik, I don't see any challenges. I am extremely positive, bullish about next 5-7 years. If somebody asks me and tells me where I should be focusing on next 5 to 7 years, I would say come and be part of this digital payments story of India. Ask Dilip Asbe of NPCI. He'll have stories to tell you about the potential to which UPI can go. He still believes that UPI is only 1/10 of what it is capable of. So imagine if he's betting on 10x kind of a growth. I can't be talking about challenges. No ways. He's innovating on a daily basis. NPCI is innovating on a daily basis, creating some interesting products. I think me as a technology enabler, I don't see anything as challenges. Yeah, there would be certain regulations that could come in, but financial services industry needs to be regulated as well. So I believe I don't see this as challenges, enormous opportunities. So I think anybody who wants to really look at digital payment industry in India, this is your time. This is time to be part of this industry. Have I lost you, Shikha?
Yes, hi Ashish. Sorry, I think there's some network issue. So Shikha will be joining us. Okay, she's back here. Yeah,
No,
awesome.
no worries. Sometimes what happens, you are worried if you are disconnected. I mean,
No, no.
And especially because Ashish, you are attending this session from Philippines.
oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I
Yeah, so
lost
when you
you
had to
for a
change the plan.
second, but I did catch your excitement, Ashish. I hope everyone can hear me, right?
Yes,
We
Yes.
can.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so I was just mentioning that, and probably I think the atmosphere was so positive that it just shut me off, right? But yeah, I think, yeah, Ashish, you rightly said that the kind of, you can say, the opportunities which are there, and then of course, the how we are turning the challenges into the opportunities. I think that's the niche. And not only for this particular industry, I would say that when we are talking about the India opportunity and when we are talking about the growth ecosystem, which at present it is provided, I think that's limitless. And with that, yeah, I'm so happy that we were able to have you for our discussion today, Ashish. And then over to you, Dr. Prashant now. Thank you, Ashish, for your time.
Thanks, Shikha. Thanks for having me.
Ayushi, can we have Dr. Prashant Pansare on Spotlight, please?
Yeah, hello. Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Dr. Prashant. How are you doing?
All well, all well. First of all, before I begin, my compliments to Reliance Geo Events team for fabulous technology because this is for the first time I'm on Geo Events. And while I was browsing through, the interface and everything, it looks super cool. So my sincere compliments to the technology team as well as organizers for having us here. And you are actually walking the talk. The India technology is now and here. Um, and I must thank Ashish for his wonderful opening remarks. He's actually, made our life easier, putting things in a perspective. Um what I want to actually bring out is a little, more to what he said.
But yeah, just
And
I
we
think
often talk about.
hold on, Dr. Prashant. I think before that, our audience would really like to know about you and about the wonderful things which you are doing, and then definitely we are going to delve
Okay,
more deeper, right? Because they should
all
know
right.
that you are also bringing up the entire, or you can say, turning all the challenges into opportunities. So yes, a brief about you is going to be like really helpful.
Oh, sure, sure. Thanks, Shika, for that. I thought that people must have actually looked up to my LinkedIn and they know that, okay, Prashant turned unemployable in 2004 when he decided to, follow the path of entrepreneurship. So I started Intelement Technologies way back in 2004 as India's third and Pune's first pure play business intelligence company. And since then, we have been in data business, and then almost 2 decades of a good work that we have done with a lot of Indian large scale blue chip companies, including some work for Reliance. We actually decided to build up the Made in India technology for global markets. And that mission we translated into a product division of Intelement in 2020. So we registered Rubyscape as a made in India software technology product in data science and artificial intelligence in February 2020. And the product has been built, and it is now available in the market, a commercial release. We are in our ninth release, and it is a simplified data science platform. It actually does data ingestion to data impact in a very seamless fashion. And when we talk about the data, we say that any data is possible. And with Rubyscape, data science is not a rocket science. So when we say any data, shape, size, it is structured and unstructured, whether it is image, text, speech, video, or machine, device, sensor, network, or a business application, which is ERP, CRM, supply chain, how we can ingest the data, explore, wrangle, integrate that data to make it machine learning, model ready. So we have a model factory, a studio inside Rubyscape that allows you to do machine learning, predictive analytics, or text mining, computer vision, and deep learning, and then create the outputs for AI applications in optimizations or rule-based recommendation engines, and things like that, and then push that data into a visualization software which is from Rubyscape, which actually allows you to do the dashboarding and real-time analytics for tracking, tracing, monitoring, and decision sciences, right? So that's our long story short as a product. We look at India as our primary focus market. While the economies are struggling globally, India is actually showing some very good numbers. The fastest recovering economy since lockdowns and COVID. And India is doing fundamentally few things right, as Ashish was also pointing out, and he's actually covered beautifully the payment industry and some aspects of fintech part of it. So let me share with you that why we believe that India is market opportunity is massive, and it is now and here. So let me not repeat the points that are already discussed, but when we talk about more than 140 crore population, 48.5% of the population is women, and almost 51.5 is male. And if you actually look at the gender, average age, the median for India is 28 years. And if you look at from 12 years to about 50 years, that league where you are actually a very active digitally savvy user for multiple platforms, that population we are talking about somewhere around more than 60%, which could be roughly about 75 crores, right? And from that perspective, when we are already now a blockchain ready country for governance for a regulator with the UID. So what UID has given us is the Aadhaar card, which is popularly known across India now, and very good penetration, because that identification layer, the identity layer, has made India a blockchain ready country to start the journey. And then whether it is your documentation through DigiLockers and the payment gateway that Ashish talked about, we are now business ready. So you have an identity layer, you have a payment layer. Now what you want to do? The next big thing in India that is likely to happen is, first is retail, the second is healthcare, and third is agriculture. And of course we anyways have be it energy, manufacturing, retail, telecom, a lot of things are happening. But if you actually look at next 5 years, massive potential, I believe it is going to be majorly in healthcare and retail first, and then agriculture. So let me talk about healthcare, essentially, so that I put certain things in a perspective, and then probably we will discuss about, if time permits, about other sectors as well. But retail, just my quick take on that is ONDC is going to be the next big thing, not only in India but across the world, because the way we will actually connect the creator and consumer on one single platform is going to be a lot different than the way things are happening in the market. India has proven and will prove it again. It's going to be like Sachin Tendulkar going out there in a stadium and then scoring tons in every time. So whatever is the phase and whatever is the industry, Digital India story is here to grow and scale. And ONDC will actually show the world that the OTT apps and the retail is not only for urbanized sectors, which is close to about 5% of what is happening as a retail in India, but it is actually going to be rural, and a massive population is going to be getting onto the retail platform. But what is more interesting and actually needy at this hour is basically the healthcare revolution through digital that is likely to happen in India. Now, see, incidentally, what has happened is that, as we often say, that internet was popular because of the pornography, and more people actually started using that, right, in the early 80s and 90s. Now, similarly, if you actually look at what has made really the mobile internet popular all over India, and thanks to some of the mobile companies that have actually taken the mission to rural India, now we have actually been seeing the fun and entertainment part, right? So whether it is reels or whether it is the fun content and TikToks of the world, the applications have been used on the massive data consumption. Then we have seen the online shopping, or probably the food tech, and the Uberization story. And we all know that, okay, these are some of the things which have provided apps, interfaces, and connections between people to things, things to people, and people to people, which has actually penetrated and made it viable commercially that mobile internet in India is cheapest in the world, and everybody is hooked on. And thanks to Jio for killing the voice as a product and bringing in data and disrupting this world permanently. But look at Indian consumer. So per sim that you're giving 2 GB data per person, and that is also not sufficient for Indian consumers. Right now, that talks about the aspirations and appetite about Indian consumers. Now, if we look at you from the lens of an API, and for instance, Shikha, I look at her as probably a 5-6 GB of a data transport every day through so many digital hooks. So by 2025, the world is expected to be connected with 50 billion devices, and world population is expected to be 8.5 billion. India, out of that, probably with somewhere around 1.5 billion population. Now, what these statistics means is that on an average, every individual is going to be connected through at least 4 or 5 devices, right? And that actually will take things to a new, different dimension altogether. But let me come to more realistic and some of the very important, vital digital initiatives in India. And say, for instance, Ayush Ministry is talking about e-health in India. And after Aadhaar card, one of the card that is actually being talked about in India is your health card. Now, incidentally, India still don't have a healthcare standard, and we are actually working and building on that fast. But on other side, what is happening is that government is actually promoting digital innovations in healthcare very much. And thanks to some of our IITs, national institutions, along with the government and some of the international, business ecosystem in electronics and healthcare industry, that there are lots of interesting devices are becoming make in India, and some of them are already made in India. So these are like, a very roughly about 30-40 devices that will produce you more than 150 types of test results. So when you talk about the medical profiling of an individual, say roughly about 30 devices producing 150 plus test results, that makes your medical record profiling accurate. And I have seen some of those outstanding, brilliant products. For instance, a small tiny device which actually is like a small mobile phone. You just place it, it's basically your stethoscope, and using Bluetooth and SNMP protocols, it is actually transmitting your heartbeat data to a health IoT platform. Now, what is happening is government on other side has actually built some of the robots and e-health IIoT platform, industrial IoT platform, that actually will be connected to these last mile devices. Now, what is happening is that if I have to give you some rough numbers which are in public domain, but they are likely to be formalized soon, is that if you take these 150 tests, they may cost you somewhere around more than ₹1 lakh. But with these kind of innovations, government is looking at that. Can that be less than 5,000 rupees? Potentially, can these tests be given through tiny prefabricated labs at every panchayat level? And can we make these e-health tests free to Indian customers on the similar lines like your UPI, where it is free for users, but there's a huge big ecosystem that has come up. And government being, as we say that government's business is not to do business, but being a regulator, every transaction is going through UPI, and then now government doesn't really bother whether it is UPI or whether it is phone, on UPI, whether it is Phone Pay or Paytm or Google Pay or other banking digital wallets, every transaction is actually going through the regulator's platform. And then there is also de-risking. Say if somebody falls, there are many other players to actually take that share and go ahead.
Yep, I think
So
here
on
in
the
Dr. Prashant, I would like to take a pause and then steer the discussion towards the business models, because herein you very beautifully captured the story of Intellimate and Rubiscape, and then in what particular space you are also making technology advancement, and then again very nicely you have summed up that what are the emerging sectors which are presenting a lot of growth and opportunity, and again in quotes the challenges for the people who would really like to be a part of this particular growth journey. But I'm sure our audience they would be really keen to understand that having said that, this is the industry, this is the growth, this is the opportunity, these are the challenges, but everything has got a model behind that, right? So then what can, apart from your experience and from your insights, what will be your take on the emerging business models which our audience can take leverage of, and then they can also have some food for thought once they go back from this particular event. So yeah, I would really like you to share your.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I was just going to come to that, because when we are talking about the digitally powered, data driven or AI driven business models, that needs fresh thinking. It needs a very disruptive mindset. Is that it's not only giving the incremental value, but how can you really disrupt? So, if you actually look at, say, 100 crore plus people getting on, say, e-health platform, and it becomes practically free or extremely affordable, you are talking about 100 crore, people data available. Now, let's look at some of the numbers. In India, visual impairment is roughly about 17%. So for 140 crore population, it is more than at least 20-22 crore of ophthalmology related data set that is available. If you look at more than 37% of the people of India are diabetic, right, pre or post. And if we take that 37%, which means roughly about at least 50 crore plus data is available, data sets are available. Now imagine that if 100 to 120 crore data, crore people data is profiled on government's e-health platform, which is practically free or very affordable to the citizens, you are then talking about the new age disruptive models, because the data monetization means that you are actually masking some, the GDPR data and making that available for researchers, innovators, disruptors. You're also making it available for the pharma companies and hospital, healthcare professionals, nutrition. So what happens if I get a sample of more than 20 crore, the ophthalmology related use case data, and if I'm training my machine learning models, they are going to be more accurate compared to, even a specialist. Imagine if I provide pathology as a service and radiology as a service. So my pathological models, machine learning models. So what I do is just have those homemade pathological tests, but they are actually connected to my digital health card, right? It's not only the card or a mobile app, but maybe in that sense, if you tattoo that on your hand, your QR code of your e-health card, and you're feeling uneasy, somebody scanning it and they know that, okay, Prashant is probably HbA1c 6.5 and he's on this kind of a medication, what do we do next? Right now, look at that integration, and these are essential mission critical services. We're not talking about whether I can see a movie on a Netflix, or I can order a food on Zomato, or probably I take a ride. These are in that sense classified as non-essential things. So roti kapda makan bandwidth, data, and these essential services, can you imagine what is going to be the growth potential? So maybe if I'm a retired oncologist, and if I actually sign up with some tech freak startup who's actually doing deep learning, and if I actually help them in understanding or training the machine learning deep learning models as how to read the MRI or the images for oncology, and then interpret and analyze it, and what can be my sample, probably government will give me a millions and terabytes of data sets which are healthcare related. So now what is happening is that the internet statistics is actually saying that 79 million jobs are going to be redundant because of artificial intelligence. But my friend, do you know that there are new almost 72 million new jobs are getting created. So, for example, if you're in a bank and you are a cashier, that cashier job is going to be redundant because of AI and digital payment wallets. But you need a forensic expert who is doing the fraud detection on internet commerce or internet payment gateways. So if one job is getting redundant, another job is getting created. Right? Are you really ready for that job? And then when you're looking at matching the tribal skills with the future skill, look at the edtechs and their mushrooming. There's a huge, massive opportunity there. How can you upskill people not only within India, but can India become a global talent supplier of AI and data science?
I think
In that
that's
sense.
very interesting. And then I love the way wherein you brought in the importance of the data. And then, of course, whenever we are discussing how can AI be left behind, right? And then the hot topic these days, which is that will AI is going to eat up the jobs. But then I think there is another way to look at that. It's the people who doesn't know AI. Those ones will be, you can say, they should really have the opportunity to learn and then understand that how AI can become their integral part of their work life. But coming back to the emerging business model and then tying it back to our topic, Dr. Prashant, I would really like to hear from you that what is your favorite part from this entire, you can say, the kind of interesting things which are happening in this particular ecosystem, because every now and then we are having a lot of surprise elements, we are having a lot of new things which are coming up into this entire, you can say, landscape, whether it's AI, whether it's which business model. This is the sector which is giving us a lot of opportunity. This is how you should tackle that. But then again, with the kind of, you can say, the, I would not say regulatory, but then wherein you also have to be mindful of the policies and the regulation parts as well. Then what is your favorite part, wherein how do you play that part in this entire thing, and then to keep your sanity into the place as well?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting point. See, what is happening is that when you're looking at a business model, and once you conceptualize it, launch it, and then you aspire to grow it, then all these angles start coming in. It is not only an idea and some, tech MVP that you're actually taking to maybe an investor or building the product and launching it. But as you start taking it forward, you have to also look at that what is going to be the viability of these models. So when we are looking at, and the theme itself is so apt that how tech companies can not only, when we are talking about India opportunity, we are talking about the massive scale. And scale, scaling up digital business in India is a team sport. No individual can do it, right? So now what happens is that whether it is technology infrastructure, so the business ecosystem is like, software is becoming intelligent and becoming AI driven. Your business ops are becoming no ops. For example, you want to do a KYC for your digital wallet or your UPI activation, sitting at home with your mobile phone, you can do that. If you have activated your Digi Yatra, that's another very good example that how self service, no ops or low business ops apps can actually get you into the mainstream. And what is that? It is basically a computer vision driven app backed by the government ecosystem, which also has your regulation, which is a GDPR data, because it is your actually scanned data that is captured at the airport terminal, right? So what happens is that if your business has to scale, you have to also look at some of these very important and critical dimensions. And when I'm saying that look at the data as the new oil, in fact look at it as a soil, not an oil. Because when you look at data as a new soil, you're thinking like a farmer, and then you're cultivating it for sowing and reaping the benefits. Because oil, once it is used, it is evaporated, right? It will give you only one time value. But if you are looking at data as a new soil, you will be able to reap the long term and more benefits out of it, is what I feel.
I love that part, data as the new soil, because from that you can see row and sieve everything. So I think that's an amazing food for thought, and I'm sure our audience are going to take a pause and then digest this particular fact as well. But thanks a lot, Dr. Prashant, for your valuable inputs. Trust me, I think there are a lot of important nuggets which you shared, and then you ended it with such an amazing, thought-provoking punchline. Thanks a lot for your inputs, Dr. Prashant, and really thank you for your
Thank you.
time to be on our show today.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so Ayushi, if you can have Radha and Sanjeev on Spotlight. While Ayushi is having Radha and Sanjeev on Spotlight. Thank you, Radha and Sanjeev,
Thank
for
you.
sharing your thoughts on this amazing topic. Because, of course, what I was also thinking, and then a lot of important nuggets which Ashish and Dr. Prashant gave it to us, that you cannot look at technology in a silo. You have to look that as an enabler, of course, because I think without technology, it's nothing, right? As Dr. Prashant was saying, that roti, kapda, makan, and data, right? I mean,
Bandwidth.
that is so amazing.
Yeah, I
And
know.
then again, in this particular ecosystem, I think that really fits the bill. I mean, I love that part. But yeah, coming back here, of course, our audience would like to hear from both of you that what are the important nuggets you will be sharing with us today, and then definitely we are going to have a discussion post your insights. So I'm going
Sure.
to be backstage now and then handing over the session to you, Radha and Sanjeev.
Sure. Thank you, Shikha. Thank you for having us over here. So while Sanjeev shares the slide, let me, Sanjeev, can you share your slides, please? And we can, okay. So while you're looking at this, what we thought is that once all of us are convinced that India is the land of opportunity, the next question that comes up is that how do we cash on these opportunities? And because we have heard digital, the word digital so many times in even today's session, we all realize that it is important to go digital with your marketing efforts also. So at Midas Touch, we are a B2B focused content and social media marketing agency. So our specialization is into digital marketing. So what we thought that we will talk about, 10 ways that companies could leverage to cash on these opportunities. So that's going to be our topic of conversation today. To start with, let's understand what these new opportunities translate into. While Ashish has very clearly said that I'm not looking at these as challenges, I'm looking at these opportunities. We are looking at it from the perspective of marketing challenges, right? That it is a highly fragmented market, so many languages being spoken, so many different types of solutions needed, so many different challenges being there. And we all know that there are like millions of solutions out there, but how do you get them in front of the right audience? And I think we have gone past the myth that our audience is not digital. Now everybody understands that everybody is on digital platforms. So that is one thing that that has to be looked at when it comes to the marketing strategy definition. The second thing when we talk about is that the digital adoption of digital technologies has been surging across all industries. I mean, today we spoke about fintech, finance, BFSI, data, but Prashant talked about healthcare, retail, and all such industries, right? So the digital adoption is very, very rapidly increasing. um, there is also this very interesting thing that there is an aspiration to become world class. I mean, Prashant himself mentioned about Rubiscape being a world class product. We have examples of, say, Zoho or Freshworks, where the products are being created in India, but they have been created for the international audience. Now, it is impossible to take these products out in the worldwide market unless you leverage these mediums, which is digital. And then the fourth and most interesting point, because we work with lot with technology companies, what we are also seeing is that while the technology companies have been delivering technology solutions to the international audience, there is also a big move towards adopting those technologies themselves, right? So suppose you are offering DevOps consulting, then obviously that company is using DevOps. within their ecosystem as well. So if we look at all these things, then it is quite conclusive that going digital is not an optional. It is all about, how well you do it. So what we are going to do is that we are going to share 10 ways. I will walk you through 5 ways and Sanjeev will take over for the next 5. So the first thing is, get the basics right. So what we say is that get a functional website. Now, we have tried to simplify the definition of a functional website, clear message. Most of the times what we see is that the website is written up from the perspective of the company. What we recommend to our customers is that write it from the perspective of your target audience, what they are going to get, what are their challenges, how you're going to solve their challenges. So make the customer the hero of your story, as we always say, right? Then design plays a very important role. Rather than cluttering it with a lot of information, keep it simple. The third important thing about your website is that some educational content, while you talk about who you are, what you do, it is also important to educate your audience, talk to them about their current challenges, demonstrate the proof that you can solve their problem through case studies, putting together some interesting value adding information in terms of ROI calculators or estimates and those kinds of things, and make it easy to connect through social platforms, contact us, and so on and so forth, right? The last and the most important thing what we say is that it is often neglected, surprisingly, is that the profiles of the leaders on a very prominent platform, that is LinkedIn. Because Prashant started his session saying that I assumed that people would have gone through my LinkedIn profile, and that is really the norm. I mean, no matter where you go, where you speak, whom you meet, LinkedIn is the primary platform that people look at. So well developed profiles of the leaders is a mandatory thing, which we say that it is a part of your digital toolkit. So that is the first thing first, you get it right. The second thing what we say is that once you have developed the website, obviously you are not going to develop it or change it very often. One of our customers had said that website redesign becomes like a Panchavarshik Yojana, because it takes time to change the website. It's not easy to do it. But then how do you keep your website fresh? How do you make it in such a way that Google likes it? Because Google likes fresh content. So what we recommend is that add fresh content in the form of blogs, articles, white papers. And one of the most common questions we get asked is that what do we talk about in our blogs? Everybody talks about the same thing. So what we recommend, and this is not a prescription, this is not a comprehensive checklist, but some food for thought is that, answer the questions of your target audience. And these questions you can get from the, interactions your sales teams have with your target audience. What are the most common, questions they are asking? What are their objections about your solutions? Use those to do proactive objection handling. There are latest trends happening. When generative AI started trending, there was a good opportunity to talk about those, or provide information that moves your buyers from one stage to another. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples in the next slide. So this is a very old example of one of our former customers. They were into this solar solutions, and that time Nepal earthquake happened, and this company kind of took that as an opportunity to make a very solid point that when Nepal rebuilds its electricity system, they should leverage solar. Now, this is a brilliant example of how, you can look at the trending news, look at what is happening in the world, and talk about how your solutions resonate with those solutions. The second example I have is, when it is our own example, when we had launched some offering, one slide before this, when we had launched some, just next, please. Yeah, that's it. So when we had launched some offering for startups, I had written this article about how startup social media marketing has to be done, and this was published in your story. So this is one good way of educating your audience that through your knowledge. The third example I have is for a technology company. This was for a company we were working with, and a lot of their customers used to ask, and they were a Drupal shop, and a lot of their customers would ask that, hey, we have been hearing about WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal. Help us choose which is the best CMS to choose. And that's when we wrote this blog comparing these three technologies. So these are some of the examples on what kind of topics can be picked up for writing the content and increasing the findability of your website. Yeah, we are doing well on time. The third important thing is that concept selling, right? So many times what happens is that because India is a land of opportunity and innovation, a lot of solutions that are coming up, they are very, very innovative, and there the concept has to be explained. Now, when the concept has to be explained, you can't talk about complex sentences, concepts, words. You can't talk about the features of your solutions. It is important to speak the consumer's language. It is important to talk about the benefits they are going to get out of it, right? So here is an example, and I don't know how clearly you can see it, but when this we created about 5 years ago on our website. At that time, the concept of B2B marketing was kind of at a nascent stage. And what we realized is that Sanjeev and I realized is that whenever we used to go to meet our prospects and customers, they would ask us certain questions about, B2B content marketing, social media. We created a repository of those questions and created a page on our website. And this is, highest ranking page on Google today. If you type the search B2B social media questions. So we are trying to do some kind of a education and talking about the then innovative concept of B2B marketing. The fourth thing we want to say is that establishing thought leadership. Now, today's world is, it's cluttered with a lot of information. There is a lot of information out there. And if you want to stand out in the crowd, it is important to take a stand. That stand can be very authoritative. It can be contrarian also. But you have to take a stand and keep harping on that this is what I want to talk about, right? And to support that stand, you have to share useful insights. You have to share your unique experiences. You have to talk about some unique point of view. HubSpot's Academy is a brilliant example how they have established their thought leadership. The next example I have is, this is again, and I'm picking our own examples because it is easy to find those. What we did is that about 6 months ago, when this chat GPT came up and everybody was asking us that, how is it going to hamper the content being created and everything. So we set aside a team which subscribed to a lot of tools, and we wrote some 60-70 articles using AI tools and then captured our learnings in this research. Now, when we produced this kind of a research on our website, talking about our research methodology, what kind of articles we wrote, how much time did we take to write what kind of articles, for what kind of articles AI was good, for what AI was not good. Now, this kind of a research is very, very comprehensive, and it helped us. I wouldn't say we have been able to establish our thought leadership as such, but this has put ourselves in a position where we can very confidently talk to our prospects and customers when we have questions about, AI written content, just as an example. And the fifth point I have is that one of the silver bullets that you have in your arsenal is that, your success stories, the use cases. But let me tell you, we have worked with almost 250 plus technology companies, and the case studies, we have seen like millions of case studies, and all the case studies we have seen talk about, this was the client who came to us, this was their technical problem, this was the architectural diagram, these were the technologies that we used, and we ran these many test cases, we developed this program. To be very honest, your customer is not really interested in knowing on what you did. Your customer is interested in knowing on how that made an impact on your client's business. So when you tell your success stories or use cases, tell the stories of your customer. Again, make customer the hero of your story. Demonstrate the impact. Sanjeev, just one slide before. So this is an example of you won't believe, this is an example of a story written for a customer that is into manufacturing of mixers. They mix two solutions in precise quantities and, help manufacturing companies and, all such companies. And they said that it is essentially an automation of mixing, right? And they had a story that they helped their one customer save so much cost that he could buy his first Mercedes because of their solutions. So rather than saying that this was the customer who came to us and this was the solution we provided, this was the mixing details and all that, the story was written in a very emotional and storytelling format. The second example we have is, this is from Freshworks. They write that how it helped a particular person save taxes and help them streamline their businesses. Again, keeping customer at the center of your story. The third example is a very interesting, Mercs, that they are, cargos. How do they, in Russian winters, how do they keep their ships floating? Very powerful visuals. Again, told the story through simple, powerful visuals and context. So just to recap, when you tell the stories, talk about impact, talk about your customers, talk about what value you have. That's all from my side. Over to you, Sanjeev, to talk about the next. I am happy to take questions either in chat or at the end of the session. I'm seeing some chat. We will answer those at the end of the session.
Thanks, Radha. So I think at least the attendees would have gotten a sense of what kind of tools or what kind of techniques we are talking about. These are the foundational things, and obviously there are a bunch of things that you could layer onto that. So the sixth thing that we are coming to is personal branding. Now, the way most social networks work is that content which is posted by individuals can get up to 30x more visibility than content that is posted by corporate brands. That is why the LinkedIn profile of the key officials of the company becomes super important. So Radha had talked about ensuring that the profile is updated, but that is you have set the stage. Now what you need to do beyond that is that you need to use that profile and amplify the reach of the messaging of your company. One way to do that is with LinkedIn status updates. Now these status updates could be highly opinionated, they could be contrarian, or they could be riding on some theme which is of relevance to your target customers. So I'm sharing an update of mine, which I had made a couple of months ago. Startups form a decent section of our target audience, and we want to obviously be visible to them as people who understand their problems. So here is an update I made, and see the number of views. It has got like over 125,000 views. And what this tells me is that this is something that is of interest to our target audience. Obviously, the LinkedIn profile is not the only place to share this content. You should be able to share it on the company website, outside publications, and so on. But the idea is, so say for example, here you need to be providing valuable information. Like this is a post from Radha, where she is talking about what are the different types of content and what is the function that type of content serves. Now, obviously, this has direct value to the people that we are talking to, and it is presented in a fashion which is easy to understand, easy to consume. So make your LinkedIn profile a kind of pulpit from which you can preach the talk that you want out, propagated out, but don't make that the only place to go out with. The other interesting approach, and I come from a background of about 25 years of having done B2B sales around the world, is a lot of people like me, the grizzled veterans of the sales world, we have a very healthy kind of suspicion of what marketing does. And obviously that leads to a kind of fragmentation between the approach of the two groups. And that's obviously not right? The objective is that they should have an integrated approach. Now, what does that mean? It means that all fronts should be talking the same language. For example, we had a customer about a year and a half ago. They started working on serverless, and they had some initial success. And they realized that is a message that not many other people are talking about at that time. So swiftly over the course of the next 3 months, they ensured that the blogs they created were talking about serverless. Their social media content was mentioning serverless in the appropriate ways. They were going out and talking to their partners like AWS at that time about this. And their CXOs were also making posts on LinkedIn, which is about serverless. Now, what that does is that it creates a strong sense of association with that key theme, and it improves your name familiarity. So this especially helps when you're doing campaigns and outbound effort. Now, imagine a mail coming to somebody who has encountered you in the context of serverless somewhere, and they are slightly more, positively disposed towards opening that mail and consuming it. Obviously, this then exploits that synergy that can be created between organic visibility and outbound efforts. So an extension to this is that I used to run cold calling teams, right? And 99% of all first contacts end on the note that, boss, you guys sound very interesting, but I don't have any business right now. Now, if you want to stay in touch with that person, you don't have the option of reaching out to them every month saying that, boss, do you have business for me today? So you can also use the content that is being created to, kind of feed into this theme as a way to do lead nurturing. Share useful content with them. And I'll give you a flowchart which might kind of show this a little better. So suppose, for example, you were to take this, what we are calling an integrated approach, right? So your research identifies the areas which are relevant to you. Say it could be an area where startups are getting funded, or where budgets are being allocated, or some other external activity is happening, like say some major technology disruption, like say Gen AI has come into the picture. Now, once you have done that research, then you can start a bunch of things in parallel. One is that what we traditionally do is that we start contact discovery and build up of databases for doing campaigns. But our recommendation is that in parallel also start content and social media activities. Start creating content which is useful in that area. Start creating white papers which are useful as lower down in the funnel content. And start creating your emails which could lead into both of these themes. The stage after that would be getting that stuff visible, right? So typically what we would do is that we would do contact discovery and start sending email campaigns. But the suggestion here is that do that in parallel to creating a similar footprint on the social media platforms. So therefore there you get that name familiarity and association with the context. Interestingly, what we have also found some success with some of our customers is influencer marketing in the technology industry. Now, these are not celebrities to whom you pay money to talk about your product. These are typically people, say, for example, they could be journalists or people who write articles, or they could be product testers, or they could be super users, or they could be people who talk at conferences. Now, these are people with whom you need to engage on a more subtle, nuanced, and sustained basis, typically over social media channels, and build up a relationship. And once you have done that, then you can leverage that to access their audience, either get them to publish content on your site or publish content on their site, or do like this, like we are doing right now, a joint webinar where we have experts as well as your people on that. Could then feed into your greater success for your outreach campaigns, which are on email, which are on calling, and so on. And therefore, eat, sleep, repeat kind of model, you need to then keep on doing it in that ongoing basis. Moving to Radha touched upon something called findability. Now, findability is that when somebody encounters you for the first time, right? But we know that the B2B sales cycle is very long, and there are multiple people who are involved in this sales cycle. So how do you ensure that it is very, very rare? I mean, I have been a sales guy all my life. I used to call myself a demand generation professional, and I look back and think that was so arrogant. I mean, how can I create demand at a customer site, right? I can only help that when they are ready to buy, that time I am the person that they turn to. And that is, I think, that is something that is very important, which today the digital world allows you to do that. And how that, for example, a typical workflow could be that, like Radha said, what are the questions your target audience has. So proactively answer their questions. So when they go to Google and type in a search, they find your content. But of course, they find your content along with, say, 3-4 other competitors, right? So they leave your content thinking that, hey, these guys know what they are talking about, but then so do 2 others. How do you ensure you stay in their eye line for the next 3 months, 6 months, that it takes them to reach a decision? That is where things like social media come into the picture. We know that these people are likely to search for the same hashtags on Twitter. We know that they are connected to the same hashtags on LinkedIn. We know that they inhabit certain LinkedIn groups. So can you appear in their eye line on a repeated basis talking about the similar themes that they have already consumed in your content? Now, once you have done that, can you leverage your CXO's personal profile as a way to differentiate your approach in that particular way? So when you build that kind of ecosystem around that, then you ensure that when they are ready to make the purchase, when they are ready to engage with vendors, then you are one among the vendors that they reach out to. Here, picking the right channels, posting the right content on those channels, posting it in the right fashion so that you are addressing the different decision makers, all become very important. One interesting thing that is very, very common in India and continues to remain so is event participation. there is a plethora of events addressing very, very specific target segments as well as very generic, which are heavily attended and which are typically very great places to become visible to a large number of people from your target audience within a short span of time. However, these events are tremendously expensive, and getting ROI out of them therefore becomes very, very crucial. Now, a lot of the time what happens is that the focus of most of us remains on the event itself. So what we say is that make that event the linchpin of a wider digital effort. The digital effort should start before the event. So your content, your social media, your CXO updates should tease the event participation. There could be something new or fresh that you're talking about at the event. It could be used, these channels could be used to generate some curiosity about those and to kind of buttress the key messages that you want to deliver. During the event itself, like we are doing now, I don't know, I mean, if you go and search for the hashtag India opportunity, I recommend you do that. For the folks who are on Twitter, search for the hashtag India opportunity. There is a live tweet going on for this event, and you will see a bunch of tweets which are out there. Similarly, previous to this, there are multiple posts that I've had on LinkedIn, on our profiles, on the Midas Touch company handle, on the JioMeet company handle, and they have got thousands of impressions. They have got many of the people here who have joined this event have done so because they first saw it on read about it on LinkedIn or on Twitter or whatever. So during the event, you can keep that buzz alive, and post event create some content which allows you to kind of tap into that, the excitement of the event. Maybe an event report, maybe a throwback, maybe a video, maybe a conversation with the people who attended the events. Now, this is the way to get the maximum out of the event. But again, it is also a great opportunity to ride on the marketing budget of the people who are doing the event. Like, you are a Microsoft partner, you participate in a Microsoft event, you can bet on it that Microsoft is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to make that event popular. So why not get some benefit out of that? And coming to the 10th and final point is that, of course, not all of us have access to physical events all the time. Therefore, do what we are doing now, which is try online events and webinars. Especially post lockdown, the resistance of people and the acceptability for online events has dramatically increased. Like, we get typically webinars where you will get 75, 100, 150 attendees. And it is not uncommon to see that many of them come back to us saying that, hey, we have questions, or we want to understand this better, or can you show me an example for this XYZ thing. Now, obviously, what attracts the audience is three things. One is if the speaker is somebody who is very well known. Second is if the topic is something which is very active, very buzzy, which is very, kind of prevalent at that time. And the third is the marketing that you do around that event and kind of generate interest in that property. Now, that obviously also one of the, kind of problems that I had as a sales head was that it was very hard to go out to prospects. I mean, I could reach out to them, I send them an email, I have a conversation. How do I stay in their eye line? Especially people who have told me that, hey, we are not interested. I don't want to drop them, right? How do I stay in their eye line? And therefore, things like, webinars or podcasts are good ways to reach out to them saying, hey, they understand this is non-salesy stuff and it is useful information. So you can build campaigns around those kind of properties. Another good thing to do, which is something that we are kind of practicing what we are preaching, is that associate with customers, associate with partners, associate with product principals, so that you increase the footprint, the visibility of that event. And again, like I said, that let's not leave it at this, point. Once the event is done, create an event recording, use it for continued visibility, keep the landing page active, post about it on your blog talking about the event, add it to your YouTube channel, right? So those are, that's what I had. And those are the 10 things that we were, kind of had in mind. Happy to take any questions or, talk about any other points that we may have based on the time that is available, and our timekeeper to the nation, Shikha, will let us know whether we have time for that or not.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev, and thank you, Radha, for that. I believe it was it was that kind of surprise element which we had for our audience, wherein, of course, we were talking about the India opportunity. But of course, one thing is talking about that, and then the another thing is how you want to execute about it, right? So very well outlined the 10-step approach, and then Sanjeev rightly said that towards the end that practice what you preach. And then exactly what we are doing, right, through our event technology platform, bringing in the technology to the forefront, and then, of course, making it available to our customer base. And then definitely I had to do the plugin, which I was planning to do that when Radha was at point number 5, wherein she was talking about the technology and the need of technology, because of course there is no dearth, wherein we talk about that going digital, the digital India approach, etc. Herein it's all about that, okay, now which technology to be used, right? So of course herein at Jio, what we are doing right now, bringing this event to our audience through our Jio Events technology platform, and of course towards the ticker. And then, as Sanjeev mentioned, that this has been brought to you by in collaboration with our JioMeet platform. So please do go. There are some great offerings which we are doing right now, at least for the CPAS one, wherein there are 10,000 minutes free. So please go ahead and try that particular platform. And apart from that, we have a slew of product portfolios. Herein, I'm going to take a pause because most of the information, and as Sanjeev and Radha mentioned, that we are also having a hashtag, which is hashtag India Opportunity. And then definitely what we have also seen is that most of the conversations do happen post-event because our audience, they do imbibe the entire thing. They do digest, and of course, they will have a lot of notes. I'm not sure how many of you will be having and taking the help of the AI as your note taker. But then, jokes apart, I think a lot of food for thought today. One, if I go backward in the fashion, so definitely 10 tips, which Radha and Sanjeev mentioned, that how to.
I'll just add one thing, and
Yeah.
which is that for the folks that we have captured and kept here, so the good news is that the lander has made a safe landing on the moon.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Sanjeev, for sharing that, because I was hearing a lot of claps around in the office,
Yeah.
and I was wondering that, okay, whether it has happened or not. So that's what I was just pinging in our chat, that okay,
Yes.
I'm seeing all the claps, but I'm not able to see anything right now.
That's
Thank
also.
you. Yes. Yep. Okay. So with that, I think we are really bang on time, and I really appreciate our audience time today because they had stayed with us right from the start till the end to have all the key takeaways which Ashish and Dr. Prashant had shared. Definitely, the opportunity is huge, but of course, with the focused plan and of course with the right technology, you can make it happen. So on this note, I
Let
would
me,
like.
Shikha, before we close, just one point that I know that, because of the time, Radha and I kind of ran through the 10 things. We are on Twitter. If you look for hashtag India Opportunity, we have made some tweets. That is one easy way to connect with us. We have the slides. If anybody needs anything specific, then they can reach out to us. That's probably the easiest way. Otherwise, we are both on LinkedIn, and you can find us by our respective names. And we would be very happy to share the slides that we had for the 10 steps that we outlined.
Yep. Thank you, Sanjeev, for that, and thank you all of you for your time. And
Thank you, everyone.
we look
Thanks.
forward to seeing you again in our upcoming session. Have a good day.
Yes, you too. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.